podcast all about theater, from the page to the stage, from the players to the playhouses. Every week, we're going to bring some information to you, some entertainment, some stories, the stories behind the stories, the people who make the stories, all about theater and the stage, starting in Detroit and throughout the country and eventually the world. So we're happy to have you here this day as we talk about curtain call and theater. Fortunately, we have with us today one of Detroit's well-known, most renowned playwrights, directors, and actors, Ruben Yabuka, who has been doing theater in this city for over 40 years and is well established as the person you want to talk to when you're talking about theater in Detroit. Welcome, Ruben.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Glad to have you. We go way back. I don't remember uh, how we met, or even when we met. I just know we go way back.
Yeah.
And
A young lady wanted to do her play out of Inkster, Pat Grant,
I was going to ask you about that
and we did it
at Hope
at
Repertory
Hope.
Theater
Yeah.
and Hope Church.
How we arranged that, I don't remember either. But that's where I think I met you. Pretty
Okay, okay. You were I had just started. Well, I was talking about starting a theater ministry there, which eventually was more like a community theater
sure.
that was coming out of Hope Church.
Yeah.
It had a nice stage in there and a nice fellowship hall that served as a theater.
Right.
And I wanted to do a theater season. And the first play that we did was that play.
Oh.
That was the very first play that we did. That was our introductory.
Okay. Yeah. Wake up and face reality. That's what it
was. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Wake up. I couldn't think of the name of it.
Yeah.
I remember that, and it came off very well. You directed it, huh?
Yep.
Yep. You directed it, and it came off very well. I don't remember again how we hooked up even to get to that point, but it's been a blessing for me
Yeah.
to be able to know you. And whatever happened with that show? And is she still writing?
Yeah, she's still writing. Me and her. That was the first thing we did.
Mm-hmm.
She had something on video. She had done it over at Inkster High School,
Mm-hmm.
and so I went over to her house. Excuse me, in Inkster to see it,
Mm-hmm.
and I saw it, and I said, "Yeah, that would be a wonderful ministry
Mm-hmm.
piece to do." And so, yeah, but she still writes. She writes songs.
Okay.
Uh, when I did, oh man, what was that? Oh, when I did my Martin Luther King
Mm-hmm.
musical, Let Nobody Turn Me Around.
Okay.
She wrote the majority of the songs for that piece.
Okay.
And so, yeah, we have worked together ever since then.
Okay. Yeah, I remember that was our very first production that fall, and we followed that up with the meeting. What I was trying to do with our theater seasons, I wanted to do a play by someone else, a local playwright or however, in the fall, and in the winter I wanted to do a standard, like the meeting of Raising in the Sun, Purgatories,
Yeah.
so that Amen Corner,
Yeah.
all of which we did do, and then do one of my original plays in the spring. That was the plan, and then we did the meeting.
Yeah.
Ted Shines, I think it was, and that was our second time working together.
Right.
And the job you did on that show was magnificent, actually.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
We had a cast. It's a two-person cast, two-man show, and we had two actors. And one guy I remember running into maybe 7-8 years ago, and he played Malcolm in that show. I can't remember his name.
Yeah.
And then we had another guy out of Ann Arbor, I think he was.
Yeah.
And
Steve, what was his name? Steve something.
Steve something. It was Steve something. And he was coming across. To let you know what the meeting was. The meeting was a play about Malcolm, an imaginary meeting between Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, and what that meeting would have been like, and discussion between the two philosophies of nonviolence and self-determination on the part of Malcolm. And we had two guys that would, one guy was doing an excellent job as Malcolm, but the guy who was playing Martin was coming across as if he was doing Shakespeare. And he wasn't getting it. Not only was he coming across like he was doing Shakespeare, he really wasn't getting the lines and the feel. And I talked about this last week with Clyde. You fired him. You fired him on. We opened on was it Friday night? We opened on Friday night. You fired him on Thursday night. We called in Roosevelt Johnson.
Yeah.
And Roosevelt came in, and we worked with him. You worked with him not only all night but all day. That Friday, and we opened at 8:15 on that Friday night, as if he'd been rehearsing the whole rehearsal period.
Right. Well, you know, the guy who was the original character, he was being resistant, I guess, because his resume was longer than mine, or he had been in the business longer than me, and I guess he didn't feel like he could be directed by me. He was also a director.
Oh.
And I had seen him work, so I knew he could do better than but he made a choice that went against my direction.
Right.
And he was sticking to his choice. Now, before I fired him, he showed me that he could do it the way I was asking him to do it. He just didn't want to do it like that. And so that's when I made my mind up that up until then, I was just trying to work with him. We can do this. But if you disagree with the philosophy or the perspective of the director, you should drop out yourself.
Right.
You
I
know?
mean, if you can't follow directions, don't hinder the show because it's not going the way you want it to go.
Right. When you get to direct, you're supposed to do it that way. And so, you know, I feel like I've never fired anybody. People fire themselves or put me in that position to have to make a change. It's never my intention to fire. But I think I've probably done it about 3 times. But I'm serious about it. And if you're not serious about it, you probably shouldn't be in anything that I'm involved with.
Right.
Because that's not, you know, I don't understand not being serious about anything you do. If you're a shoemaker, I mean, do it.
Right.
You know, so if I'm going to do theater, I had people when I first started tested my resume and all. You know, I was like, well, what have you done? I'm here. I'm in this position. Let's see. Let's see how it goes.
Let's see how it goes.
But you got to give me a chance, like I'm giving you a chance.
Exactly.
And if you can't do that, then you're not made for this production.
And yeah, I've had to let a few people go over the years myself. Sometimes you cast some people, they read well, they sound good in auditions, and then when they get on the stage, it's just not coming out.
Right.
It's just not, you know, they had a moment, a 2-minute moment in a read where they sound like, okay, this is the right person for the position.
Right.
And after 2 or 3, after several rehearsals, if they don't get it, it's time to let them go.
Well, just like I did with the Roosevelt, I'd have stayed up all day and night and worked with the brother. But when he showed me that he just was not going to do it that way, then I didn't have any choice as far as I was concerned.
And it worked out. Our first that show. Okay, now I'm getting confused. Was the meeting the first show, or was the other show the first show? I think the other show was the first show.
Wake Up and Face Reality.
Or was the meeting? One of them.
I think it was Wake Up and Face Reality.
Yeah, I think so
that was
too.
before.
But the meeting was a hit, and it really set us on course for our season and for the years that came after that.
Right.
Because people were just like, that was really good.
Yeah.
That was really, really good. People weren't expecting that from a church play.
Right.
You know, and they weren't expecting the lights, they weren't expecting the sound, they weren't expecting the acting.
Right.
And you gave us that, and we put it all together. And
well, that's the ministry side of what I do. I do theater ministry and I do secular plays. But when I do theater ministry, I want it to rival any secular play.
Exactly.
I want it to be as good as it can be. Well, that's going to be anything that I ever do, but
Hmm.
I want that for theater ministry.
Hmm.
It's just as important.
Right. If you're gonna put something on stage, whether it's in ministry, Broadway, off Broadway, high school church, high school stage,
Right.
middle school stage, you bring it. You bring it. You put your all into it. You put your best foot forward, and you bring out the best in the people you're working with.
Right.
That's the only way to do theater. That's
And
the only
that's
way
the
I know how
joy.
to do
That's the
theater. Right.
joy of it.
Right. And like Robert Talley told me one time, she says that you like to put in the work and put it all together, and then sit back and watch the people enjoy what you do. And that's one of the things I enjoy about the work that I do, the work that you do, is sitting back and watching the audience respond
Right.
and enjoy what you put on the stage. And if it's done
After opening night.
after opening night,
Opening night is not. I'm nervous, more nervous than the people on stage.
right? Well,
But after that,
yeah, you know what my wife would tell you, before opening night, I'm just a mess.
yeah,
But when we get to opening night and I turn it over to the stage director, I seem to relax.
yeah,
I just let it go. I just sing God's hand now, and it's worked out every time.
yep,
It's worked out every time because you put in the work.
right,
The bottom line is, you put in the work.
right.
If you put in the work, you're gonna get the results of the work you put in.
That's right.
And so let's I reading your bio. I didn't know you didn't start into theater until '82.
Right.
So I can see maybe why the guy was thinking maybe your resume wasn't as long as his.
Right.
But I don't think that really matters when you see the quality of your work. Give us a little bit of your background, how you got into theater, and of course I saw where you were a DJ, and DJs are like a part of our lives when we grow up. And there's always a segment. We were talking about Jay Butler. I remember Jay Butler being on the air on WVOL in Nashville when I was growing up.
Mm.
And I didn't know he left Nashville and came to Detroit.
Yeah.
But you were a DJ.
Yep.
Tell us about that.
I worked at WJLB and was on the air with Donnie Simpson, Martha Jean the Queen, Al Perkins,
Mhm.
John Edwards, Al Allen, who just recently passed,
Mhm.
was one of our news directors at a time.
Mhm.
And, I started there my first, let me see, at about age 20
Okay.
when I was going to Wayne State. I was working at the campus radio station,
Mhm.
WAYN, the little on-campus radio station.
Mhm.
So I was learning the craft, and two of my female friends told me you should send the tape to WJLB.
Mhm.
The only way you could hear my show was to sit in.
Right.
you
Right.
know? But they were like, you should send it. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I want to do that. I want to come into people's homes.
Mhm.
But when the second one said the exact same words,
Mhm.
I said, maybe I should. Maybe
Mhm.
this is an omen.
Mhm.
So I submitted a tape, called them every day for about a month,
Mhm.
and got the job.
Okay.
And so I enjoyed the creativity
Mhm.
of radio and the when I first started,
Mhm.
we had creativity, creative freedom.
Mhm.
We could do whatever, and that changed down the road when they came with this very vulgar word called format,
Format.
which meant they told us what to play, when to
play.
talk,
Mhm.
time, temperature, when to say the weather. It's like, come
Mhm.
on, man, we can figure this out.
Mhm.
We've been doing it all this time. But and so that kind of what chased me out of radio. I didn't continue to pursue it, but I knew that was just a stop along the way.
Mhm.
And radio led me into um, theater
Okay.
because I wanted to do commercials. Part of our job was to cut commercials,
Mhm.
and excuse me, and so I just really enjoyed that part of it. And so I said, well, I want to cut commercials for a living as a
Mhm.
profession. And so I got into that and found out maybe it would help if you could act,
Mhm.
like act in commercials. Well, you can either be an announcer kind of a guy, but those were usually the older guys,
Mhm.
older established
Mhm.
dudes. And so I was going to have to play characters.
Right.
And so I needed to know how to act. So
Mm.
I went to theater to learn how to act
Okay.
for commercials,
Okay.
radio commercials, and television commercials.
Okay.
Still young. I left radio at age 28.
Okay.
And so I happened to go over to uh, the Detroit Repertory Theater.
Mm-hmm.
The first audition I ever did was for a play called Two Pieces of Silver. They were celebrating their 25th anniversary at the time.
Okay.
And I got to play a fish named Flop. So I said, well, this is nonsensical. It's just fun.
Mm-hmm.
I can do this. So that helped me relax
Okay.
at the audition
Okay.
because everybody there looked like they could really act
Right. Right. Well,
until they got up on that stage.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And I said, okay, I'm not alone. I'm not the only novice out here.
Right. Hold it right there.
Yeah.
You are watching Curtain Call on WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest TV station in the world. Please give us a like, a thumbs up, comment if you like. Tell your friends about us. WJZZ Cool TV, Curtain Call on the coolest TV station in the world. Okay, so at the rep, you started taking the classes at the rep, or
No,
you just
I
went in and
auditioned for a play.
Okay,
I didn't know anything about the classes.
okay,
And so I got that piece. And again, I was serious when I did the radio.
mm-hmm,
So I came in serious, even though I had a lot to learn.
mm-hmm,
And so I was, as this, I was in a piece called "The Fisherman and the Wharf" or something on the wharf, in the wharf or something.
mm-hmm,
And so there was a time when me, Flip, Flop, and Wiggles, those were the three fish,
okay,
and we were sitting under the wharf while he was trying to fish.
mm-hmm,
And so one of the brothers was, after we would get through, he was like, "Man, did you see that pretty girl in the front row?" And I said, "No, I didn't see no pretty girl. I was a fish."
right,
What were you? you know? And so it was just part of my work ethic.
mm-hmm,
So no, I saw no humans.
okay,
I stayed in
you were
character
in character,
and that sort of thing, even though I was learning the craft.
mm-hmm,
But and that's why I went there, and so I really enjoyed it from day one,
mm-hmm,
and got into it. And then after a few years, I realized, well, I, I want to try expanding,
mm-hmm,
and that's how I got into directing. I was also their sound designer. I was their marketing director for 3 years.
mm-hmm.
I just went for it.
Okay. Okay. Rep is great training ground. We did the rep. We had the rep. It was one of our first. Actually, it was our first podcast.
Mm.
We did two podcasts from the rep, and we actually did them from the rep with Leah Smith.
Right.
Um, rep is a great training ground, and the quality theater always have. Um, we were just talking about, fences.
Mm.
I auditioned for fences. And Ruben was the director. I didn't get the part, but I went to see the show, and it was an excellent show. He did a good job of casting. So tell us more about your experiences with the rep, and how that led to your own production company.
Well, so the first play I directed was Bruce Milan, the artistic director
Mm-hmm.
at the time.
I remember Bruce.
Yeah, well, he came to me and said, "We're going to do a black show," because they didn't do black shows. They did interracial casting,
Mm-hmm.
colorblind casting.
Okay.
I love that about the rep.
Yeah, I do too.
That made me feel at home right away
Mm-hmm.
on their stage.
Mm-hmm.
But this time they were going to do a specifically black show, so he wanted a black director.
Okay.
He just came out of the blue because I never said to him I wanted to direct.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure he knew I had never done it,
Mm-hmm.
and but I accepted the challenge, and I didn't want to let him down, so I really busted my balls, my buns. Excuse me.
That's all right. It's a podcast.
And busted my buns, and and it turned out okay. It turned out really good.
Okay.
It sold very well because their audience was predominantly black, and they ate that up.
Mm-hmm.
And I just happened to be blessed to be the person who was doing that one. and it was so well written. Just like Fences,
Yeah.
just don't get in the way.
What was that play?
The Colored Museum,
The color. Oh, yeah, I remember Color Museum.
one of the best plays of the '80s,
Mm-hmm.
and Fences was one of the best plays, I
Period.
think, of the '90s. Right.
Right.
To me, August Wilson's best,
That's right. Right.
and that's saying something.
It is saying something.
You know.
They all do
And so yeah, then I did something after that, where I guess after the success of the Color Museum, I started thinking, hey, it was me.
that.
I
Mm-hmm.
did this. Look at what I did.
Uh-huh.
And so I felt like I could do that with anything. So
Mm-hmm.
they asked me to direct again the next season.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really care for the script, but I thought I could make this happen.
Mm-hmm.
No, I couldn't. So I learned, oh, it's not just you.
Okay.
you know, I knew it was the cast and all that, but I
Mm-hmm.
thought the things that I did were all, blah, blah, blah. you know, no, I learned very quickly that, and I think we came off okay with that play, but
Mm-hmm.
what I learned was it all starts with the script.
Mm-hmm.
You can do a very good job on a script that's doesn't suit you. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying there's anything wrong with the script.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't the person to direct that piece,
Okay.
and so um, it just didn't. I couldn't put my heart into it,
Mm-hmm.
and I did the best I could, but it was like, oh, I can't.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't like the script, I can't direct that play.
Okay. What
I,
show was
I
that?
can't even remember the name
Oh,
of
that bad.
it. We did a gag where somebody disappeared in the bed.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
That was the most fun and the most memorable part to me.
Okay.
But other than that, I can't even remember the name of the piece. But I
Okay.
learned a valuable, and I should remember it because I learned a very valuable lesson
Mm-hmm.
by doing that play.
Yeah, every production is its own education.
Absolutely.
Opportunity to learn and to grow. Um,
You're nothing without a good script, without a
mhm,
good cast,
mhm,
good designers.
mhm,
It all comes together. And then, of course, what you do as a director or an
mhm,
actor, what you do, whatever your role
mhm.
is a very important part of putting it all together. But it's an ensemble situation.
Right. All
You know,
theater, especially ensemble. You can't
yeah,
do one without the other.
yeah,
You got to have the actors. You got to have the director. You got to have a strong stage manager.
right.
You got to have the costuming,
Oh,
lighting, um,
critical.
sound. If you're not in a small house, that's acoustically appropriate. Um,
When I did Fences,
mhm,
talking about costuming,
mhm,
the son Lyons, the son who um, was a musician
mhm,
who always came over to borrow money from his dad Troy
mhm,
on payday,
mhm,
and so his wife worked, but he didn't want to work. He worked as a musician,
mhm.
but you know how freelance that is.
Right.
And so you get some money here, you get some money there, whatever, blah blah blah.
Mhm,
That's how successful he was,
mhm.
and so in his father's eyes, he wasn't successful,
Right.
you know, or he wouldn't be over there borrowing money.
Mhm,
And so for Lyons, because he talked so much in the first scene he was in
mhm,
about who he was and his success and la 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 la, you just don't understand.
mhm,
I knew the next time he entered to pay Troy back the $20 he had just borrowed in his first scene,
mhm,
it was important that he came in sugar sharp,
mhm,
just sugar sharp.
mhm.
I worked hard on that
Okay.
that wardrobe. And when he entered the stage before he ever said a word, the
Mhm.
audience responded
Right.
because they connected,
Right.
to how he was talking all that stuff. His father established, you
Mhm,
ain't got no money.
mhm,
Your wife is the one who brings in the money and
mhm,
all of that. But boy, was he sharp.
mhm.
And so that for me was that made that scene.
Right. As a director, being able to interpret the script, being able to give that interpretation to the audience, being able to recognize how important costuming was for that scene. The director has to encompass all of it.
Right.
He has to have that big picture and be able to put all the little pieces together to get that big picture. Uh, the stage is when it's three dimensional with that fourth wall. The director has to be able to convey to the audience everything that's going on in that arch, that proscenium arch on that stage, interpreting from costuming to the delivery of the lines, to the facial expressions. The director guides that, and it's important that the actor brings what he's going to bring in his interpretation to it.
Right.
And as a director myself, I'm looking to see what you bring in as an actor, and if I like it and think it works, perfect, great. If not, then I'm gonna tweak it a little bit.
Right.
If I have to change it altogether, we'll do that too.
Right.
The things you're describing as a director, give me more.
Well, I was blessed too with Fences. Let's stay on that one. That was very successful at the rep. It won um, Best Actress, Leading Actress. It won Best Supporting Actor. It won um, Play of the Year from the Detroit News and Free Press.
Okay.
You know, and of all things, the person who didn't win Best was the guy who played Troy Maxon, the great late, unfortunately, Council Cargill.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, that was criminal to me,
Mm-hmm.
but nonetheless, incredible,
Mm-hmm.
incredible actor. Um, Jennifer Jones played Rose,
Mm-hmm.
Lyons, Tim Rose. It was just a beautiful, wonderful cast. Anthony Lucas
Mm-hmm.
played Gabe, the brother. Um, so having that experience, that just catapulted me into doing other things. And after a short while, I decided, well, I if I could figure out how to raise the money,
Mm-hmm.
I could produce my own plays.
Okay.
And so in '88, I started Buka Productions Theater Company.
Okay.
We did our first play in 1990,
Okay.
The Colored Museum, by George C. Wolfe, who's still out there directing stuff,
Mm-hmm.
big time productions and stuff now,
Mm-hmm.
even for television. I think he directed Ma Rainey, the television version of Ma Rainey.
Already, like bottom right.
Pretty sure he directed that.
Mm-hmm.
But he's directed big time stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Chadwick Boseman's last production.
Right. I saw that. That was. I had to go back and look at to see if he was the director on that. But that
Yeah.
was excellent, an
Yeah.
excellent piece for TV.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the rep just did Ma Rainey's Black Bottom.
Did they?
Yeah, just they just closed what maybe in February.
Oh wow.
Maybe
Okay.
not even maybe last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
They just
That's
did Ma Rainey's Black Bottom.
Yeah.
And somebody just did Fences? Was it?
They did it on Broadway.
Yeah, I'm talking about here in Detroit. I think the Stagecrafters just did. Did they do Fences? I forget. Stagecrafters.
Okay.
Um, uh, yeah, Stagecrafters. Somebody just did Fences, and the rep just did Ma Rainey's Black Bottom.
Yeah.
I'm trying to keep up with our theater and keep the audience abreast of all the theater that's going on in Detroit right now.
Yeah.
So we're just talking about actors and what they bring to the stage. But before we get into some of the people that you've worked with, and there's a who's list of people he's worked with, let me just say you're watching Curtain Call on WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest TV station in the world. We'd appreciate it if you would give us a like, give us a thumbs up. Please make comments. Let us know what you're thinking about what we're presenting to you every week. Tell your friends about us. Subscribe to WJZZ Cool TV Live. You're watching Curtain Call on WJZZ Cool TV Live, the coolest TV station in the world. Okay, so you've done so many different plays that you've written. Before we get into some of the people that you've worked with, tell us about some of the works that you've written for yourself.
Well, the first piece I wrote was the Martin Luther King musical called
Mhm.
"Let Nobody Turn Me Around,"
Mm-hmm.
and that was a piece that, to my mind, was inspired.
Mm-hmm.
It was the easiest uh, piece I ever wrote.
Okay.
It just came. It just poured out of me.
Okay.
So I believe I was just a vessel
Okay.
being utilized, and I was. It was at a time when when I initially wrote it, it was at a time when there was a great debate in our community about which one was the better. Thus, the
The
meeting.
meeting,
You
right,
know,
right.
um,
Malcolm or Martin.
yeah, who was the most important, who was the most effective and
Hmm.
influential, and who was the greater leader. And it just always amazed me how we always think we can only have one at a time.
Right.
Why did we buy into that? They were both great in
Great
their
leaders.
own way. And what I want,
And they both had, and using a theater term, they both had their own audiences.
absolutely,
They had their followings that suited where they operated, and the messages that they gave.
right,
They had audiences that served their purpose.
right.
Right.
But I wanted to show that Martin wasn't so wimpy
Right.
and Malcolm wasn't always strong armed.
Hmm.
They both had both sides
Right.
to them.
Right.
Malcolm's mind was always open,
Hmm.
um, and he eventually came around to leaning more toward Martin's way,
Hmm.
not with regard to just let somebody. He was all for self defense, which is
Right.
what he was saying
Hmm.
anyway. He wasn't saying go out there and just start killing people.
Right.
He was always for self defense, but his mind was open, and when he went to the Mecca, the trip, and it opened even more
Hmm.
to be a little more inclusive. And Martin was getting a little more radical toward the end.
Exactly.
So I wanted to
Exactly.
show that Martin wasn't this little pushover dude,
Hmm.
and so I wanted to play more than the "I Had a Dream" speech. So the whole piece was written. There was a Martin Luther King character,
Hmm.
which I happened to play
Okay.
reluctantly,
Hmm.
but he he didn't. The whole play was Martin's words,
Hmm.
and the rest was songs.
Okay.
That help push the dialogue along.
Hmm.
And so it just the first song I wrote for it. I wrote some of the songs. Pat
Okay.
Grant wrote most of the songs. She
Okay.
was just amazing with what she did.
Hmm.
But I wrote a song called "The Man Inside of Me."
Okay.
Where he didn't. There was a place in the show where this guy we showed the radical,
Hmm.
this kid who was trying to be with SCLC or trying to be with the movement, the
Hmm.
nonviolent movement, but it just wasn't working for him.
Hmm.
And so I felt like we had to show the other side. And he just didn't work out. He put on at the end of his scene, at the end of his song, the man inside of me who just wants to be free.
Hmm.
How can I turn my cheek and still be the man
Hmm.
inside of me?
Oh,
And
that's beautiful.
yeah, and so he put on his blue jean jacket
Hmm.
and his beret and
Hmm.
his dark sunglasses at the end of his scene,
Okay.
and he walked off strong.
Okay.
Okay, we didn't get that one
Uh,
in the movement,
nah,
in the
we didn't.
nonviolent movement.
No.
And I want to show that we didn't, well, I was marching and protesting as a kid,
Hmm.
but they didn't get everybody.
Right.
There was the other side too.
Hmm.
And so it was just so wonderfully portrayed with actors who really bought into that process and
Hmm.
and that way of doing theater
Hmm.
where we said a lot without dialogue.
Okay.
And it was I thoroughly enjoyed it. I pray I'll be able to do it again soon,
Hmm.
somewhere.
Okay.
It's kind of piece that people still ask me about.
Hmm.
And I've done it a lot,
Hmm.
but I haven't done it in the last several years.
Right.
So
Right.
I hope to do that again.
Hmm.
I did a piece. I was hired to write a piece called "Rock My Soul,"
Okay.
and Arts League of Michigan and the Mosaic Youth Theater
Hmm.
got some. The year that the Super Bowl came to Detroit,
Okay.
they got some of that Super Bowl money
Okay.
to do a production,
Hmm.
but they didn't know what they were going to do yet.
Hmm.
So they had an art exhibit. Arts League had an art exhibit called "Rock My Soul"
Okay.
of the history of black folks from Africa to hip hop.
Hmm.
So they commissioned me to write a piece,
Okay.
a play about that, and a musical. And so I did, and I was blessed to be able to do that. And
Hmm.
and we did that at the DIA.
Okay.
Uh,
That's a nice house.
yeah,
Mm.
it was
Beautiful.
a beautiful experience. We had I
Mm.
don't know how many 100 people.
Yeah, in fact,
You
that's
know,
where the Mosaic does most of their work at the DIA.
Is that so they
Yeah.
probably arranged the space.
Right, right. Yeah, because I've seen a number of mosaic works
Yeah.
at DI.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And of course their young people were in the production as well.
Hmm.
And then we had some Rudy Hawkins singers.
Okay.
They were in the production. So we had the youth and we had the vets, and
Hmm.
it turned out great. Turned out really great. And man, I did what's this other piece I did? I need my own resume. Uh,
There you
oh, okay. I can never remember what I do. Oh, Donny Hathaway is my favorite singer of all time,
go.
still
Okay.
to this day.
Okay.
Excuse me. And so, when I was in radio, I did a radio special
Hmm.
for Donny Hathaway. I used to do this show called In Perfect Harmony,
Okay.
and it just featured the music of different people, and
Hmm.
and I wrote script and
Hmm.
that sort of thing. And so I did a piece on Donny Hathaway called Little Ghetto Boy, and I wanted to do it syndicated. And so I was trying to get it syndicated to do it on the radio
Hmm.
across the country. I never could get the funding to do it.
Hmm.
And so it hit me one day when I was thinking of, okay, what am I going to do next? Like, wait a minute, I can take that Donny Hathaway idea and put it on the stage.
Hmm.
And so I brought in singers, and it was just a straight up musical doing all. It was a tribute to Donny Hathaway done live on stage. Just like they do the TV tributes and all that, and the artist is sitting in the audience and all that. Well, Donny had been gone
Right.
in '75, I think.
75,
I think he died before I left radio. I left radio in '82.
I'm gonna say 79, but I can't
Yeah,
be sure.
and so I had auditions and
Hmm.
found the greatest singers I could find in the Detroit area. My boy Armand Jackson, I
I
had known
remember
for
mine. I had
years.
that mine in a production.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which I probably saw,
Hmm.
because when Armand showed up at the audition, I'm like, "What are you doing here?"
Hmm.
I knew him as an actor.
Right.
I didn't know that boy could sing.
Oh,
He was a singer first,
yeah, he was a
then an
singer.
actor,
Right.
or a singer who could act,
Right.
not the other way around in his mind.
Hmm.
But he was really gifted in both.
Hmm.
Um, Thornetta Davis,
Oh man,
Miss Blues.
Mr. Blow your way.
Oh
One poke
man,
that choke in the mouth.
oh man,
Yeah.
dude named Thomas Nance
Hmm.
who could sing. He auditioned singing or Donny Hathaway Roberta Flack duet,
Hmm.
and he sang both parts
Oh wow.
in their key.
Oh wow.
So I said, he's in.
Hmm.
And so it was just full of a young lady named Anita Newby. She's from the very well known Newby family in the church, um, annals of the church.
Okay.
Um, and oh man, I can't even think of all the people who were in it. Renee King, was Renee in that? Yeah, Renee King Jackson,
Hmm.
who used to do Baker's, used to do a thing at Baker's once a week.
Okay.
So anyway, it was cast full of really, really talented singers in Detroit.
Yeah.
And
Oh, mine.
oh,
Peace.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
So and they all were.
Hmm.
And so I think we opened with a song called, young lady, what's her name? The Key of G. What's her name?
Yeah. GK was. He was my AD. Hey,
Really?
G was G. Hey G. Uh, love you G. G was my AD for uh, the last thing we Grandma Rogers. She was my AD for
Yeah.
3 or 4 different shows.
Well, she had a son who could sing his nose off.
Really.
Yeah. I knew her. I don't know. G was like, where did I meet her? Probably when I was in radio or something.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know how we found him or he showed up at the audition. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But I found out that was her son.
Oh, G, man,
Oh, he
holding
could
out
blow.
on me.
He could blow. He called himself Bonus.
Okay.
He was just he became kind of like, I put him in like 4 different numbers. He was just that good.
Okay.
And so, but everybody was good.
Mhm.
Everybody was good. Most people did multiple numbers, but I think
Mhm.
he did the most.
Okay.
Because it just suited. He
Mhm.
just fit the ideas that I had.
Okay.
And so we had a wonderful time with that. I was hoping to tour. We did it twice.
Mm-hmm.
We did it in March, and then we came back and did it again in November. I think we did those at the over there in Southfield, the church now.
Where Triumph is,
Yeah.
South at the North End.
Yeah.
North End. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever what they call it, the Millennium.
Millennium Theater, right.
Yeah, and so yeah, so I did all those kinds of productions.
Mm-hmm.
Before the church came in there, I was talking to the person over the Millennium Center at that time
Mm-hmm.
about creating a season,
Okay.
and she had me and one other producer. I don't know who that was,
Might have been me because I talked to somebody over there about doing plays over there.
and we were supposed to come up with about 8 numbers or something, 8 pieces. I was supposed to come up with 3 or 4,
Mm-hmm.
and something happened, and she ended up leaving, and they ended up selling it, leasing it, renting it, whatever they do to the church, and so
Yeah,
that
I thought
ended
that
that.
was a good facility.
Oh, it was a
Good
great
theater.
facility.
Like I said before, I don't like big houses because you lose
Right.
the real feel of theater and,
Right.
and being able to see what the actors' expressions and that sort
Right.
of thing. And
Right.
yeah, so houses of that size, 500 seats, 600 seats, and that's 700 seats. As long as you don't get those big houses like the music hall.
Well, the beauty of that the beauty of that place is
Free parking.
well, free parking, but surprisingly it was 1,000 seats,
Right.
but it still
Yeah,
was
small.
intimate.
Right.
And
Exactly.
even if you sat in the back where I did for anything I directed,
Mm-hmm.
because I would be back there with the audio and the video people and all of
Mm-hmm.
that, and you could still see their expressions.
Exactly.
It was spread out this way
Right.
instead of the long
Middle,
way.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
and
what
so you could still see everything. You could hear everything. It was,
Those are the size houses, and that would have been an ideal place for theater. It
Yeah.
still is.
Yeah.
Just that it's a church now.
Yeah.
So, again, I want to ask you now about some of the great names that you worked with. But before we do that, let me do another station ID. You're watching Curtain Call on WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest TV station in the world. Coming to you live on Facebook and YouTube and all other streaming platforms. So if you would, just give us a like. Give us a comment. Let us know what you're thinking. Curtain Call on WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest TV station in the world. So, just looking through this resume, and I see names, who's who.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
first tell us who maybe your favorite actor was on stage, and just give us some of these great names of people that you worked with over the years.
Well, my favorite actor was Council Cargill,
Okay.
of course, who played Troy Maxon in Fences.
Mm-hmm.
He was just an amazing man, and just, I mean, he had the same work ethic. In fact, maybe I was trying to keep up with his work ethic.
Okay.
If he took the role, he was going to pour his heart and soul, whole body into it
Mm-hmm.
to pull it off and make it come out right.
Right.
And that was a Detroit guy. I did a play called Church Girl
Mm-hmm.
for Angela Barrel
Dunlap.
Dunlap.
Andrew
There we
Dunlap
go.
Barrel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was Barrel Dunlap.
Barrel Dunlap. Angie Barrel.
Yeah.
Angie Dunlap.
Yeah. Dunlap is her last. That's her husband's name. And so I worked with a young lady named Demetria McKinney.
Mm-hmm.
Demetria does these housewife shows, and she was on House of Pain,
Okay.
which I had never watched. And they said, "Well, she's on House of Pain." I said, "I've never seen that." And so, so I went to turn it on just to see her,
Mm-hmm.
and there she was in the scene,
Mm-hmm.
and she was incredible. It wasn't my cup of tea,
Mm-hmm.
but she was amazing. And so when I worked with her, I'm like, man, she's like almost like a female Council Cargill in terms of
Okay.
how she worked and how
Mhm.
hard she worked. She was a triple threat. She could act, sing, and dance,
Mm-hmm.
and she did all of that in the show Church Girl, which was a wonderful experience. One of the guys one of the greatest singers in the show, this dude named um, Tony
Tony Grant.
Tony Grant.
Tony
Yeah,
Grant.
Cornelius Grant's son.
Mm-hmm.
His father, Cornelius Grant, was one of the Funk Brothers. He played guitar
Tony Grant's
with
father.
Motown. Yeah, yeah, he played Cornelius Grant.
Really?
Hey, if you
I know Cornelius Grant was a instrumentalist.
right,
Right. And
pull his face up
right.
and see don't they look just alike?
Okay. And Tony Grant was in my first play at the music hall, Family Love.
Really?
Yeah.
What?
Tony Grant played Al Bowden in Family Love in '97 at the at the music hall.
Well, from what I'm seeing on Facebook nowadays, Tony is the lead singer of the
Tony's the lead
Temptations
singer
now.
of the Temptations.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that boy is bad.
I know.
Oh man,
I know
he
his
can sing.
voice. I
Oh.
still have his voice on my phone right now on the song he sang in the play.
Yeah,
Oh man, and it's still he had one of the most beautiful, strongest voices of any singer I've heard.
yeah,
Yeah, he turned Family Love out with that show,
Yeah.
with that song.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. He's a bad boy.
yeah.
So him, Jennifer Jones, who
Mhm.
played a Rose in Fences, Tim Rose,
Mm-hmm.
who's been in Hollywood for a while now.
Mm-hmm.
He just really played the heck out of Lions. You know, you talk about somebody, but also Leon.
Mm-hmm.
Leon's last name is Robinson, but everybody
Okay,
knows
just
him as
know him as
Leon,
Right.
who played David Ruffin in the Temptation movie,
Mm-hmm.
and also in
And
Five Heartbeats.
Five Heartbeats. Right.
Yeah, had a chance to work with him.
Mhm.
Darren DeWitt Henson,
Right.
who was
Know
on
him.
Soul Food, the TV show,
Mm-hmm.
played Lim. You know, but Tim Rose in Fences, who played Lions. This is what an actor can bring to the
Right.
role if you don't get in their way,
Right.
if you allow them
them.
some freedom.
Mhm.
So Tim came up with one of my favorite pieces in the whole of Fences, and Fences is so incredible.
Mhm.
But this is something that I don't think August Wilson would have been mad about.
Mhm.
So Tim comes back when I had him sugar sharp in the next scene where he appeared,
Mhm.
and he was coming to pay Troy his $20 back.
Mhm.
So he's on the porch knocking, and Rose is yelling from inside, "Who is it?" And he's like, "It's me, Lions. I came to pay Troy his $10 back."
Right.
Since Troy wasn't there, he was gonna give Rose $10 to
Mhm.
give to Troy.
Right.
You know, and I'm like, man, I said, if don't nobody else like that, Tim, I love it.
Mhm.
But everybody loved it.
Mhm.
And that's how actors can help make you look good
Right.
if you allow it. And that's the process that I love, is the working together.
Mhm.
And I always tell actors, I don't mind different, but it's got to be at least as good as what we already have,
Mhm.
but better is better.
Mhm.
You know, so if you got something at least as good, or especially better,
Mhm.
if you're more comfortable, if it's on the same level and you're more comfortable doing it that way or saying that,
Mhm.
do it.
Right.
I don't care if I wrote it.
Right.
You know, change that so you're comfortable.
Mhm.
But better is what we want.
Better is what we always want. And I've had people take some of my scripts and give a line and make it better,
Right.
just by tweaking it and adding their own little personality or something they come up with in it. So that's a director's a prerogative to be able to do that.
Right.
And it's always helpful when somebody can bring it like that.
Right.
Right. So you worked with some great people, and because I can personally attest to the standard of excellence that he brings in his own works. And I would love if we could just keep talking for hours about theater.
Right.
But our time is up, and
Okay.
so we're going to have to cut it off here. And hope you'll join us next week when we bring you more stories of the people who bring you the stories that you love and see on stage. And that's it for Curtain Call this week. See you next week. Thanks, Ruben, for